Let's go back in time to a significant historical event. General Emilio Aguinaldo formally proclaimed Philippine independence on June 12, 1898, ending centuries of Spanish control. A new era began on December 10, 1898, when the U.S. acquired the Philippines through the Treaty of Paris for $20 million. The Philippine-American War, 1899-1902, broke out in the midst of this change. The Malolos Constitution, which established democracy and rights, provided Asia's first republican constitution on January 21, 1899. Aguinaldo overcame obstacles like internal strife, conflicts with the U.S., and recognition issues. The conflict continued, resulting in Aguinaldo's capture in 1901 and the fall of the Republic. However, its impact endures as a testament to Filipino nationalism and the relentless pursuit of freedom. Spanish-American War and the Treaty of Paris in 1898. The war was influenced by a combination of factors, including American support for Cuban independence, economic interests in the Caribbean and Pacific. The sinking of the USS Maine, an American battleship in Havana Harbor on February 15, 1898, fueled anti-Spanish sentiments in the United States and played a significant role in pushing the country toward war. The war was fought on multiple fronts, including in the Philippines and Cuba. The most famous battle was the Battle of San Juan Hill, where future U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt and his Rough Riders played a pivotal role. The United States emerged victorious, and as a result of the war, Spain ceded control over several of its colonies. The war marked the U.S.'s emergence as a global power. The Treaty of Paris of 1898 formally ended the Spanish-American War and was signed on December 10, 1898. The Battle of Manila Bay was a significant naval engagement during the Spanish-American War. The battle took place on May 1, 1898, in Manila Bay, Philippines. The American fleet was led by Commodore George Dewey, while the Spanish fleet was under Admiral Patricio Montojo. The battle primarily involved the American Asiatic Squadron engaging the Spanish Pacific Squadron. The American fleet had modern steel ships, while the Spanish fleet consisted of mostly outdated vessels. Dewey executed a daring surprise attack by entering Manila Bay at night, under the cover of darkness. His ships engaged the Spanish fleet at close range, which proved highly effective. The American fleet achieved a decisive victory. Dewey's forces quickly destroyed the Spanish fleet, with minimal casualties on the American side. Following the naval victory, Dewey's forces blockaded Manila, preventing Spanish reinforcements. This contributed to the eventual fall of the city to American forces. Benevolent assimilation policy. The United States initially presented itself as a benevolent colonizer, promising to bring modernization, education, and democracy to the Philippines. This included the construction of infrastructure such as roads, bridges, and schools, as well as the implementation of new technology. Education was highlighted as a means of assimilation in the policy. The administration developed schools and encouraged the use of English in education, the media, and official communication. The principles and culture of the United States were shown as superior and desirable. As a result, several Filipinos adopted Western clothing, behaviors, and ideals. The colonial government established a new political system comprised of municipal and provincial governments. This was done to introduce Filipinos to democratic processes and institutions. During the benevolent assimilation policy, the Filipino people responded with a mix of hope, skepticism, and resistance. Despite the fact that the U.S. portrayed it as a tool of modernization and advancement, many Filipinos considered the strategy as a form of cultural imperialism and questioned its true motivations. While the program was portrayed as benevolent, critics claimed that its real goal was to advance American political and economic interests in the region. The United States desired to acquire control of the Philippines in order to ensure trade routes, access to resources, and a key military presence in the Pacific. In hindsight, the policy is seen as a reflection of the complex dynamics of colonialism. It illustrated the tension between modernizing aims and cultural consistency. In 1941, Japan invaded the Philippines after the Pearl Harbor attack. This led to Japanese occupation and suffering for Filipinos. Despite this, both Filipinos and Americans resisted, forming guerrilla groups for sabotage and intelligence. Following Bataan and Corregidor's fall in 1942, prisoners endured the harsh Bataan death march with limited sustenance and numerous casualties. The U.S., aided by Filipino guerrillas, launched the Philippines' liberation in 1944. The battles of Leyte Gulf and Manila Bay were pivotal in this effort. The campaign aimed to free the Philippines, uniting American and Filipino forces in the fight against Japanese control. Filipino and American collaboration led to the Philippines' 1945 liberation. Post-war, this set the stage for Philippine independence from American colonial rule in 1946. Shared wartime struggles nurtured camaraderie between Filipinos and Americans. The Bataan Death March followed the surrender of Filipino and American forces to the Japanese on April 9, 1942, marking the end of the Battle of Bataan. The surrender was prompted by the lack of supplies, ammunition, and reinforcements for the defenders. The march began on April 10, 1942. Prisoners were force-marched under the scorching sun, often without shoes and proper clothing. The journey covered approximately 60 to 69 miles, 97 to 111 kilometers. Many prisoners were subjected to extreme physical abuse by the Japanese captors. Those who lagged behind or tried to escape were beaten, bayoneted, or killed. The exact death toll of the Bataan Death March is difficult to determine, but estimates suggest that thousands of prisoners died as a result of the march itself, as well as the subsequent harsh treatment in internment camps. The death toll could range from around 5,000 to 18,000 individuals. The Battle of Leyte Gulf, known as the greatest naval battle in history, took place from October 23 to 26, 1944, in the waters surrounding the Philippine island of Leyte Gulf. This battle was critical in enabling General Douglas MacArthur's return to the Philippines and was a watershed moment in the Pacific War. The Battle of Leyte Gulf was made up of numerous interconnected naval battles: the Battle of the Sibuyan Sea, Surigao Strait Battle, the Battle of Samar, the Battle of Cape Engao. The return of General Douglas MacArthur to the Philippines was a major trigger for the Battle of Leyte Gulf. On October 20, 1944, MacArthur's landing on Leyte Island signaled the start of the campaign and increased morale among the Allied troops and Filipino resistance fighters, but it also allowed other Allied naval forces to exploit weaknesses in the Japanese fleet.